Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you on this bright, beautiful spring morning. Isn't it lovely out there? I'm so glad you decided to join us here this morning. Lots of blue skies. I think we might have one newcomer in the house. Barbara or someone, Tamara maybe, would someone mind getting a little gift bag to present over there? Thank you, Barbara. She's right there near them. Good to have you with us this morning. I think everyone else are, I'm not going to say old timers, old friends, folks who have been here before. No old timers in the house. So glad to have you with us. Glad to have anyone with us who's listening in online. We're always so, that's our community as well these days. And we are so grateful for your support, those of us here, those of us listening in online and sending tithes in by PayPal or by check to the church here. We're so grateful for that ongoing support that keeps us coming along. Joe and I are your musicians today, and we're glad to do it. And I always like to start before we do that prayer song, a couple of announcements, mostly things you probably know. I think there's one more week of the Lenten Bible study class that Cliff Miller is facilitating. That's Wednesday at 1:30. Newcomers always welcome, even at this last one. And like all our classes, it's on a donation basis. And next Sunday is our guest speaker Sunday, and Reverend Dana Horton will be guest speaking. It's Palm Sunday, and he's picked a title. It's titled, was it a donkey or a colt? I don't know what that's going to be about, but it sounds interesting. And Easter is the following week. It's hard to believe that's two weeks away now, April 9th. As always, if you'd like to contribute some beauty to our service that day, there's a sign-up sheet for lily donations. You put your name down, who your lily is in honor of or in memory of, and the church will purchase those lilies, have them on display at the Easter service, and then you can take them home with you after the service. And I think that's about it for those lead-in announcements. So as always, we begin with prayer, and we begin to think about what we are lifting up in our minds and hearts. We're very inclusive in our prayers and unity for ourselves, our loved ones, our neighbors, our community, our world, our planet, for living beings everywhere. And we're going to go into prayer with a little song, one of Joe's and mine. It's called Thank You Song, very simple little prayer song. Thank you, Blessed Spirit, for your grace in my life. I know your wisdom guides me. I feel your joy inside. I know you walk beside me. Your love is sweet and true. I feel your peace embrace me. I am in the light with you. Thank you, Blessed Spirit, for your grace in my life. I know your wisdom guides me. I feel your joy inside. I know you walk beside me. Your love is sweet and true. I feel your peace embrace me. I'm in the light with you. I'm in the light with you. I'm in the light with you. Let's allow ourselves to close our eyes and take a deep breath and become even more centered and still and receptive to the life of God within us. That flow of healing energy through us is flowing through all living beings at all times, that renewing life, that renewing strength, that steadying peace that is ever here close at hand as we open to it and invite it to fill us up, to fill our hearts and minds with that sweet peace. In these moments of prayer, we remember that highest of all truths, that source from which we draw all our wisdom, our strength, our joy, our peace. We know that that power and presence guides us always, that we do not have to think our way through life, that there's a higher intelligence in us, a higher power that will lead the way as we trust it, as we open to it, as we allow it to guide us step by step, by day and by night. How grateful we are to know that not one of us is separate from that power and presence, that all living beings everywhere, every form of life, we are all deeply connected to Source. So we can rest and know that all is well and be grateful. And so we are, and so it is. Amen. All right. We're kind of focus today is kind of about how we don't have to think our way through life. In fact, the more we think sometimes, the more we get in trouble. Amen? Amen. So this is a song by Daniel Nahmod. It's kind of about kind of stopping our efforts to control or plan, plot everything with our thinking. And it's called Inside to Find My God by Daniel Nahmod.
Inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. Inside there is sacred love. Inside there is sacred love.
Song. Lovely. It's an inward directing song. I like that. We'll have another one for you a little bit later. Well, we're kind of nearing the latter stages of Lent, right? Lent is nearing the end, so I thought of this Lent joke. I've used it before, but I think it's been a few years. And it kind of takes place around the end of Lent. John Smith was the only Protestant who moved into this large Catholic neighborhood. And on the first Friday of Lent, all of his Catholic neighbors smelled this aroma of steak on the grill filling up the neighborhood. It was just, and it went on every Friday. Everyone out there having fish every week, and the smell of cooking steak every darn Friday all through Lent. They got really tired of it, so the men in the neighborhood, they kind of conferred, and they decided maybe we could get him to convert. So they go talk to him, and he, to their delight, he agrees. He's happy to become a Catholic like the rest of his neighbors. So they take him into the church, and the priest sprinkles some water over him and does a prayer, and he says, "You were born a Baptist, you were raised a Baptist, but now you are a Catholic." So they were all thrilled. They thought they were all set going forward. Well, the next Lenten season rolls around the next year. Sure enough, that first Friday night, they smell the aroma of steak cooking on a grill. And they think, "Oh, did he forget?" So they decide to go over and check on him. And they just couldn't believe it. So they go over there, and they arrive just in time to see John standing over the grill, and he's sprinkling some water, and he goes, "You were born a cow, you were raised a cow, now you are a fish." The magic of conversion right there. I like that one. I think that's a good one. All right, so nearing the end of the Lenten season, I thought, well, one more talk kind of about the idea of fasting and what it means at a deeper level, maybe a spiritual level. In unity, of course, fasting is very much a matter of kind of inside work, consciousness work. Charles Fillmore, our co-founder of Unity, he wrote a book called Keep a True Lent many years ago, and he talked about fasting as meaning abstaining from error thinking. He says, "I deny out of consciousness old error thoughts as if I were gently sweeping away cobwebs. I rid my consciousness of limited thoughts that have encumbered and darkened my understanding." That's a kind of fasting that maybe we need to do kind of regularly. But this is the time of year we're particularly thinking about that. So it's a time of kind of identifying and relinquishing limiting ideas, our hold on things we think we know. Things we think we know in order to open ourselves up to more possibilities. So that's kind of a real key query is then, what limiting thoughts are we holding on to? What error thoughts? And it seems to me one of the things sort of cutting to the chase of that is to try to look at our whole tendency to overthink, to think we know everything, to kind of be know-it-alls in a way. It's a bit of I think of it as over-knowing. It's a bit of an occupational hazard of growing up, isn't it? Children are wide open to learning new things. They don't think they know it all. They know they don't, and they're wide open to learning. Somehow, as we grow up, we become adults, we start thinking we know how it all works. We know what the possibilities are. We think we know how things go in life, but there's so much we don't know. At this time of year, I'm beginning to think about getting into the garden stores again. It's just ahead, and one of the garden stores I go to pretty routinely every season. There's a staff member there who's, answers questions for customers and so on. I've completely stopped asking him any questions because you will get a lecture, and quite an extended one. It'll go on and on. It'll be way over your head. You'll feel very ignorant. They'll have soil pH levels and all kinds of things, very, very complicated. So I never ask him any questions anymore. We call him the man who knows too much. The man who knows too much. And, it's, in a way, we're all a little bit like that. We all know a little too much. And it can get in the way of learning new things, of being open to new possibilities because we think we know what's possible and what's not possible. This is a real key teaching in Buddhism. If anyone's done any reading in Buddhism or been to any workshops or things along that line, they talk in Buddhism a lot about beginner's mind. In Zen Buddhism, beginner's mind, or sometimes it's called don't know mind. That's the mind you want to be in if you want to be open to the moment, what's yours to do in the moment, because you're not going to be meeting it with assumptions, about how things are, with prejudgments about things. You're going to be wide open to the moment. A great Buddhist teacher, one of those who really brought Buddhism to the West, Suzuki, he said, "In the beginner's mind are many possibilities. In the expert's mind are few." It's true. I think we know way too much sometimes. I was always fascinated with koans, K-O-A-N, not exactly sure how you say that, koans in Zen Buddhism. It's a teaching technique for getting rid of our judgments and opinions, for getting rid of our overthinking about everything. So it's kind of a tool for teaching true insight and being open to true insight. So it involves questions that can't be answered logically, rationally. They kind of stymie your mind, bring you up short, so you can kind of get rid of some of those opinions. He says, when you take away your opinions, your mind is clear like space, which means from moment to moment you can reflect any situation and respond correctly. You're not burdened with what you think you already know. That makes sense to me. We've heard of the koan, like kind of not very important ones about what's the sound of one hand clapping, or something like that. Silly ones kind of like that. If a limb falls in the forest, does it make a sound if there's no one there to hear it? They're supposed to kind of open you up to clearer insight. But I like this one. It's a koan from something called the Book of Serenity. A Zen Buddhist teacher asks his student, his disciple, where are you going? The disciple says, on pilgrimage. The teacher says, what is the purpose of pilgrimage? And the disciple said, I don't know. And the teacher said, not knowing is nearest. I kind of like it. It's a subtle thing, but it's kind of nearest to what? Nearest to the truth, nearest to the realizations you want, nearest to the answers, nearest to that insight you'd like. Don't know mind. That's the power of that. I think it's just as integral to Christianity, this idea of don't know mind, of being open to things because there's so much we don't know, and realizing that. I love this passage from prophet Isaiah, who's really communicating what God's word is to us. I will lead the blind by a road they do not know. By paths they have not known, I will guide them. I will turn the darkness before them into light, the rough places into level ground. These are the things I will do. I love that. I will lead the blind by a road they do not know. By paths they have not known, I will guide them. It sounds like hyperbole, but in fact, it's truth. We have all been guided by paths we did not know. Would you agree? We've all been guided by paths we didn't know about, didn't plan, but somehow made our way along. We were guided that way. Jesus taught the same thing repeatedly, that we don't know what's possible, that we should not judge. He was always demonstrating more is possible than people think, than people thought. Why do you marvel at what I do? He asked his disciples. It is not I, but the Father within that does his works. And he said, if you know that, if you're open to that, all things are possible. All things are possible. Is that hyperbole again, or fact? I think it's more of a truthful statement. We do not know what's possible. All things could be possible. We have no awareness of what the limits are, of possibilities for us. And we limit ourselves every time we think we know exactly what's possible and what isn't. And we actually know this from our own experience. We just kind of forget, our brains get in the way, get overblown and overthinking and overknowing. But we all know from our own experience that we've been guided by paths we did not know. We've been able to do things we didn't think we could in all kinds of situations in life. Taking care of an ill loved one, recovering from an illness ourselves, the healing work involved in that. Did we know how to do that? Did we get a guidebook? Or were we guided by a path we did not know? Taking care of a child going through a difficult time. Any number of things in life, somehow we have been guided through without knowing the path we were walking. So much more is possible for all of us than we are aware of, than we think. When we practice not knowing, it's like when we loosen our grip on how much we know, then the floodgates open and things become possible for all of us that we didn't realize were possible. So I was thinking about stories like that, about people I know, about people I don't know. You all know our good friend Elmer Fisher. We visit him pretty often, and he's an amazing man. He's been blind from a genetic condition. He's been blind since early adulthood. I won't try to pronounce what it was that he had, but it was run in his family, and he had vision problems in childhood, and by early adulthood he was completely blind. And yet, He excelled as a vocalist, right? How many of you heard Elmer sing? Yeah, many of us, and many of you listening in online with an amazing and inspiring, rich voice. And he took voice lessons in Cincinnati, and he began to sing out in churches all over. He was on a TV show locally down there for the anyone from this area or the Cincinnati area, the Bob Braun Show or the 50-50 Club, anyone remember that? It was a noon hour program, I think, for many years. He sang on that program a number of times. He sang in churches, he sang at Reds games and other games, doing the anthems, and sang at Unity of Columbus for many years, and also here at our concerts, summer concert and things like that, community things. He even went on a cross-country skiing adventure in Europe. Right, yeah, blind cross-country skiers. Can you picture that? That's amazing, just amazing. Who'd have thought that would be possible? He was led along a path he did not know. He was guided along paths by the power and presence of God. We see this all the time. I was remembering some years ago, a wonderful, remarkable woman I met, actually in the Dublin area, not far from where we live. There was a lot of environmental upset about a planned development right on the river. It was going to be, I can't remember what it was going to be, some kind of club, nightclub, something like that. And the whole neighborhood and community was very agitated about it. A lot of work on it to try to protect the environment in that area. She was one of those neighborhood activists. And at that time, this was some years back, I was doing some writing for a local magazine, and I interviewed her about the efforts going on and her role in that. And I was amazed when she greeted me at the door. She had half an arm was amputated, I think at about the elbow, and she had two small children. She was an attorney and a powerful neighborhood activist, and managing all that without any sense of doing anything extraordinary. That's just what she did. I was amazed at the power in her, amazed at what she had found a way to do everything she needed to do in life. How did she manage it? She was guided along paths by God, guided along paths she did not know. Much more was possible for her than she probably herself would have thought. Happens all the time. I love the story of the dancer and choreographer and theater producer Gillian Lynn. Any of you familiar with her work? You probably are. She's the one who did Cats. She choreographed all of that wonderful music and dancing in that and other shows. She's from the UK. I think she died just a couple of years ago. But as a child, she did very poorly in school and always getting in trouble for being unorderly, not being disciplined enough. And her mother was always having to take her out of a school, trying another school, always being called into the headmaster's office or whatever at these schools. And they would tell her, I don't know, this was the 1930s, so I don't know whether they had the medicines that they have now, but they told her that she was hyperactive, that she was a discipline problem, that she was difficult to have in a classroom. And basically she was kind of shamed in many ways, treated like she was bad, and that there was something wrong with her. So when she was about 8, she was called into a school again, this new school, and she was expecting, they're going to talk about expulsion, discipline problems, and so on. And the headmaster was kind of a smart one. They talked for a little while a few minutes, 15 minutes or so in the office, and then he said, told the little girl, well, your mom and I are going to go out, in the hall, we're going to chat a little bit. I'm going to put some music on for you. Why don't you just sit? We'll be back in a few minutes. And he puts the radio on. So they leave, and they kind of watch through the little door in the window periodically, and pretty soon she just can't control herself. She's moving around, and the fidgeting turns into arm movements and then leg movements, and then she's pretty soon she's like pirouetting around the room. She is moving to that music. And the headmaster points this out to the mother as they look through the window and says, "You don't have an undisciplined, unruly child. You have a dancer." You have a dancer. I love that story. All these other people who thought they knew too much were telling her there was something wrong with her kid. She was probably hearing that all over the place, but one person who didn't know too much said, "You've got to dancer her, get her into a dance school." And that's what happened. And she was in, by the time she was a teenager, she was starring in production. She was in the Royal Ballet. She had her own ballet company, and then she was doing things in theater, doing the choreography and producing, and she did things like Cats and Phantom of the Opera, working with the highest and the best in the business. Incredible career. We might have all lost that. If that shaming and treating her like there was something wrong with her by people who knew too much had continued, we might have lost all those gifts. We have to be careful about knowing too much. We have to remember how little we know really about what the possibilities are for all of us, because God is leading us by roads we do not know. We are being led along paths we can't plan, couldn't plan in a million years. So our job is to follow God's lead as we make our way down these unknown paths. So I think that's the daily task before us, I think, is how to overcome our over-knowing, our knowing too much. To remember, constantly remind ourselves of the limits of our human thinking, how often we've been wrong, how many things were possible for us we wouldn't have thought were possible for us, the way we made our way through things along paths we did not know and somehow got through them successfully. We've all done that. By intentionally opening ourselves up every day through some kind of spiritual practice, through your prayer time, your quiet time, your time walking in nature, your times of silence, whatever it is for you, to open yourself to that power and presence that we're all connected to at depth, that source that's the real creative source of our lives. And having time every day where we open ourselves to that and listen and let it guide us, let ideas come. It's kind of like opening up a wellspring. And it may not all come in one rush, but through progressive kind of opening up every day, we find more and more is flowing. More and more is flowing to us. More and more insight is arising. And by asking every day in our prayers or in our quiet time to be guided, setting that intention, I invite you to guide me. I'm open to your influence. Bring me the truth that's mine, the wisdom that's mine, and set before me the tasks that are mine to do. I am wide open to your influence. So that's kind of my affirmation for the day. It's knowing the limits of human understanding. I am wide open to divine influence. Want to say that with me? Knowing the limits of human understanding, I am wide open to divine influence. That was a mouthful, but a powerful statement. All right. Let's take that into prayer for a moment. As we close our eyes, we affirm that high truth within. We are grateful for the wisdom we have, for the things we have learned to do, the things we know, and yet we know there is so much that we do not know. So we are wide open to that higher power and presence, that higher intelligence, that deep source of wisdom and peace and love that is within each one of us, that we are all connected to at depth. We invite it to flow through us, to guide us by day and by night. How grateful we are to know that we are at all times in touch with God in us. So it is. Amen. All right. Well, one more song, Joe and I have for you. And it's one I hope you'll join in on the chorus, right, Joe?
That's right.
It's a song by Claudia Caroline and Karen Drucker called Let Love Lead the Way. So it seems fitting for the day. Don't follow me or my thoughts or you or your thoughts. Follow the presence of love in us. Okay, it's an egg song. I play percussion. When my world is not okay, when there's roadblocks in my way, when I feel so all alone, these words will bring me home. Let love lead the way. Come on. Let love lead the way. Oh, 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 oh. Let love lead
God lead the way. Let 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 God lead the way.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. And we'll let Joe get back to his camera work. He's our AV guy. And then I'm delighted, Linda Wessner is our platform host today. She's going to come up and share some thank yous and some announcements. Thank you, Linda.